Hey everyone, it's time for some more Monster Hunter, and today we're going to have a bit of a return to form. Originally I was going to try doing weekly videos for a few weeks or maybe even a couple of months to see how well they did on my channel and to see if that's something I wanted to switch to. And while I agree it's definitely more well put together, generally I have a harder time making long form videos out of something like the weekly videos where I go over an entire quest rank and progress and stuff like that. In addition to that, since it would be on stream, it would be really difficult to include a lot of the audio without including me commentating over it already. So for now, I'm going to switch back to the daily, slightly edited videos, and we'll kind of see what happens going forward. Now, something that was brought to me a few times is people thought the loud titles to the videos were a bit obnoxious, which I do agree with. However, I was mostly there for catching attention and for the algorithm. And since it wasn't ever exactly clickbait and I never really lied in it, I didn't really feel too bad about making the titles the way I did. But out of respect for a lot of the people who might think it's obnoxious and, to save me a little bit of, I guess, brain processing power, I'm going to go ahead and make the titles a bit more subdued. Just keep in mind that if my channel is negatively impacted from it, I will be going back to the original style of doing titles. Still, either way, that said, thank you all for your support so far, and let's get right into the thick of it. I just want to give a massive thanks to all of my Patreon supporters. This is the most direct way to support the channel, and they give me the motivation to keep going every day. Now, originally, I had already done the first rank to high rank, so all the 4-star quests, basically. However, I decided against making a video of it because I wouldn't have been happy with it, and I couldn't think of a way to make it, so we're going to do a couple of very boring quests today. Pretty much from what I can tell, high rank in Monster Hunter 1 is literally just low rank again. So pretty much what we're going to have to do is do all the 1-star quests now, but whenever Kutku or whoever else shows up, they'll be more difficult to deal with. I'm sure that'll be interesting enough. Also, in addition to that, whenever you do go into high rank, you don't get any items in the box besides a map and first aid meds. Now, I think with high rank, what they're really trying to prioritize is basically, hey, I actually come out in the field and prepare and stuff. So I do have a barbecue spit here, and I'll go ahead and get me some raw meat. And I do know that I'll need to put an emphasis on preparing properly from now on. The one upside is that the small monsters don't seem to be affected hardly at all. Maybe a little bit, but if not a little bit, almost not at all from the switch over to high rank. At the very least, I can still kill them in 1 or 2 hits, so that'll definitely make gathering meat a lot easier. But besides that, some of the large monsters, in addition to having additional health and damage, and defense, I suppose, they do have some differences. I know that a difference that was described to me by the Kutku is apparently sometimes it'll fake out its charges instead of fully committing to them every time. That's definitely interesting in a vacuum. However, in terms of high rank and having to do the entirety of low rank all over again, well, not low rank all over again, but all the quests all over again, I wouldn't say that's really enough to keep my attention. I actually think Frontier did it a lot better in terms of switching over to the newer monsters. Now, don't get me wrong, obviously some of the area of effect attacks and crazy elemental and status blights and whatever else, those I was definitely not the biggest fan of, although I can understand why exactly they're put in the game. However, in my honest opinion, when it comes to Frontier, just the progression from one monster in one rank to the same monster in the next rank, they definitely had substantial differences that did make them a lot more fun to fight, for lack of a better term. More fun and interesting to fight. So the faking out, for example, the Kutku, I do appreciate the idea, but there was one monster in Monster Hunter Frontier Z, Guan, I can't remember what it's called. Basically, it's like this fanged beast that's in the desert. Oh, right, there's no mushrooms there, only nitro shrooms. But there was one monster in the desert that whenever you fought it, at first it would just do its attacks normally, but as you fought it at higher ranks, or for the, I guess for the Zenith variant, as you fought it at higher Zenith levels, it would actually fake out this quote-unquote clap attack it did. And basically what this attack did, and obviously this being an Aibo video, of course I'm going to forget to empty out my pouch. But basically what this monster did was I won't do the first aid meds, I can get rid of them. But what the monster did was it would clap its hands together and create this, I think, AoE attack or something like that, and it would do like massive damage, or it'd be able to combo you from that attack or something. But whenever it clapped its hands, sometimes it would actually fake clapping its hands to make you dodge early in the later ranks. Some people would call that a bullshit attack. Personally, I think it's very interesting, though I can definitely understand why people would be upset by the attack. I would certainly be too. I would definitely decry it at first, but after that, I'd be like, okay, yeah, I guess that's smart. I haven't actually fought it yet, and hey, oddly enough, we are streaming Frontier Z today, so I think that's nice. But besides that, and of course, as you can see, even though it is high rank, the Bullfingo don't exactly do any additional damage. Although they're no less irritating to deal with. But as I said, okay, they are very irritating to deal with. So as I was, okay, they are extremely irritating to deal with. So as I was saying before, in terms of the high rank stuff and Frontier Z, I think they definitely do it a lot better, even though this is the very first game, so it's a bit more understandable. But they definitely did a much better job of making the monsters feel more unique and adding additions to them as you progress through the ranks in game. Now, the reason why I'm actually finding these Bullfingo right now, though, is there are special mushrooms really close by that I need to get access to. So I'm trying to get myself sorted out so that I don't get jumped while I'm trying to get the special mushrooms. Honestly, those Bullfingo can go suck a dick, because I don't like Bullfingo. Besides that, I did want to bring up a small thing about my channel, and just something I wanted to go over in general, but basically the reason why I'm switching over to this original style I was doing in terms of doing the videos the way I did them before is because while I agree that if you can do weekly videos, they tend to come out higher quality. The problem is you actually have to be able to do them well, for lack of a better term. So after the first one I did, I actually really was upset with, one, how short it was, and two, how lacking it was in terms of, you know, audio, sound effects from the actual game, you know, bits and pieces in terms of, like, gags, and not really being able to properly represent what I wanted to put in the video. So because of that, and also in addition to that, funnily enough, and I think it is actually because of something that I already considered and went over and probably won't happen again, but I accidentally made one vital mistake in that video, and I actually wound up, like, my channel was actually negatively impacted by putting that video out, I would say. Of course, the crap guide thankfully picked things back up, but I guess that just goes to show that, for me, this is kind of my bread and butter. I just commentate, and I do the video, and yes, it's easier, and yes, it's quote-unquote slot because there's less effort put into it. But doing these videos every single day, I would say, is pretty much the same amount of effort I would put into a weekly video. The only difference between this and the weekly video is I would have to kind of watch over everything and go through it again. And on top of that, I would also have to basically record hundreds of gigabytes of footage to my system just to edit all down into like 15 gigabytes or something like that. So for that reason and a couple others, I decided to switch back to this style of video, which honestly I've kind of grown to appreciate. As is, this channel did start out as an archive channel, and for the most part, I do understand that the way I do the videos right now, they aren't exactly archiving the games, like every single quest in the game. So what I'd personally like to do is continue doing the videos this way, so people can kind of get an overview for, you know, the game and the videos and some of the more interesting stuff when it comes to watching this series. But in addition to that, I would like to eventually create either a second channel, or I would like to make a separate playlist just going over all the quests, like in detail, unedited, just raw footage. And the entire point of it, like I said, would be to just fully archive each game. Now, something I did want to go over is there are a couple of additional, I guess, spots from whenever I did this before that I didn't really consider whenever I was doing these special mushroom quests, but Up here on the top left of Area 9 is actually a secret little mushroom gathering area. I don't know if I actually went over that whenever I did do this, but I believe it's the same in single player and multiplayer. I believe that should be almost everything I need. I need just one more. And besides here, I believe there is one more mushroom gathering spot in Area 7 I can go to. Then, of course, you know, Area 10 and Area 8 as well, but I'm trying to remember if there were any else. I know there's also a secret mushroom gathering spot in Area 6, but I've pretty much exhausted all those points, and I believe Area 7's the last one I need to get to, although it does give mostly nitro shrooms, but I have seen it give a couple of special mushrooms on occasion. Now, something I did... Oh, Gypsaurus is here. Interesting. Something I did notice about this game on occasion is that no matter how difficult a gathering quest might seem, at the very least I've never seen it like fully soft lock me in terms of actually denying me the ability to fully gather all the items I need. So I'm feeling pretty confident. If I don't get at least one more special mushroom from Area 7, then most likely that means there's some other way I can get them. I could probably go to Area 6 and kill the moss swine and get a special mushroom that way. Although I think they only drop blue mushrooms. I don't remember 100%. So I think it's interesting to see that after people talking about, and I do agree with them, but talking about how Capcom streamlined Monster Hunter Rise, for example, to the point of basically, you know, hey, it's get the items from the supply box and then go fight the boss. I think it's interesting to see how they had that mentality just from the very first game in general. So, for example, if you go into low rank, you have rations, you have health items, and it kind of incentivizes you to get through low rank as quickly as possible so that you can get to high rank, which I guess is quote-unquote where the real Monster Hunter begins. But even besides that, I feel like high rank has always just kind of been the very start to what Monster Hunter was meant to be. So you are expected to bring your own items and prepare and everything else, and I feel like low rank is supposed to kind of ease you in there, but then as you go along, when it comes to low rank to high rank, you know, high rank is kind of where they let go of your hand, figuratively speaking. They stop holding your hand, and they're like, okay, well, here's a little pat on the back, you can have a healing item, but you're gonna have to find your own supplies going forward. And then if you got a full player part, like a 4-player party, fully as intended, then, yeah, and I believe this here is another mushroom gathering spot. There we go. Alright, so yeah, there's one more in Area 11 I missed. But basically, everyone only gets, like, a small amount of healing, and I think 3 first aid meds is about, or probably slightly over or under, 1 full health bar of healing. So they really don't give you much, and high rank is kind of where it's supposed to be like, oh, this is where the real hunter-gatherer stuff is. This is where, you know, you really are supposed to play Monster Hunter like Monster Hunter. So that's an interesting perspective I kind of gained after listening to some retrospectives, and also just understanding that, and this is something that I didn't even know until just recently, that once you get in high rank for Monster Hunter games, or I feel like most Monster Hunter games at least, they pretty much take away most of the supply items besides the bare minimum of what you need to reasonably be able to do it once you get in high rank. And just like that, we have done the special mushroom quests. Definitely took a lot longer than would if there's just one person here, about 15 minutes, which I would say is definitely a long time for a gathering quest. And a lot of gathering quests do get a lot of flack, which I kind of agree with, but I think it's nice to have, maybe not necessarily a lot of gathering quests at the start, or even a lot of gathering quests in general, but between the large monsters, let's say you have 5 large monsters in a single star rank, I think it'd be nice to have, like, 1, maybe 2 required gathering quests to kind of break things up and to also prepare you for the next quest. And arguably, you could go out and actually gather while you're fighting the monsters, but personally, I feel like that kind of defeats the purpose of actually going out there and fighting the monster. For me, at least the perspective I've gained so far is that what they want you to do is during the actual boss fights, yeah, they might want you to gather a little bit here and there, but only what's really necessary to complete the mission. And then the slower quests where you're gathering and everything else, and maybe not the gathering quest specifically even, it could also be the mining quest. Maybe on the gathering quest, I would say like 1 gathering quest, 1 mining quest, and then on the gathering quest, you could mine, and then on the mining quest, you could gather. Because obviously the nodes need to reflect the special item you're trying to obtain. However, I do think it would be nice for these older games if there was like one mining quest and one gathering quest in between the boss monsters, because that would help break up the flow, and it also give you a way to gather items outside of fighting those boss monsters. But pretty much what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and empty my item pouch, which I just spent 1,000 zitting to do, and I realized that was a dumb idea because I could have gone to the smithy and done it for free. But that's neither here nor there. We can worry about that later. As is, I'm on to go ahead and sell a few things and drop a few things off, and then we'll get to the next mission. Now, I really don't have much time left, so I'm going to go ahead and do one more mission. I don't know if I'll do the Jungle Menace or not. I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and do Party Time, because as is, I need to gather some raw meat, and I do want to quickly wrap this up anyways, because in less than an hour, I do need to be streaming. Now, as before, Party Time is pretty easy. There's a lot of Aptonoth here that you can take down for some raw meat. And what I think a good idea is to pretty much get all the raw meat you need, or maybe 9 raw meat, not 10. So first get 9 raw meat, and then go ahead and make a whole bunch of well-done steak after delivering it, and, you know, getting some more raw meat, getting well-done steaks, like all the well-done steaks you need, and then after that, coming back and getting the last raw meat. Well, excuse me, I actually worded that weird. Basically what I was trying to say is come out, get 9 raw meats, and then go back, deliver the 9 raw meat. You only need 1 more. Come back out, do like 9 well-done steaks, and then you can deliver the last raw meat. Now, one of the biggest reasons why I even wanted to make this channel to begin with, now that I think about it, and it wasn't really something I considered was an actual influence on me before. Now, obviously, as I said before, I've made it no secret that I kind of made this channel because I don't really know what else to do with my life, for lack of a better term. But I was like, yeah, you know what? I really like Monster Hunter, so let's pretty much play through every quest ever in Monster Hunter. And I'm sure that's impossible to some extent, but I'll still definitely try my best to get as close to it as I can, to that goal. But one of the main reasons I even started my channel to begin with was because there was this content creator called Helix's Wild Hunts, and he went over Monster Hunter Online, and I was like, man, I really love Monster Hunter. And then, of course, I was playing a lot of, like, Elden Ring and Dragon's Dogma, and I was like, wow, I really like these games. And Monster Hunter just kind of scratched this itch, and I actually messed up by getting 10 raw meats. Whoops. But Monster Hunter basically scratched this itch for me, and I really didn't know, and I really can't describe just how fun the game is for me to play. There's basically this loop I go through, and I've played Monster Hunter for years, and there's only one other game that I've really played as much as the entire Monster Hunter series, and that's like heavily modded Skyrim. But pretty much what it boils down to is that I play a lot of Monster Hunter, and I just don't burn out on it, no matter how much I play. There's always that next armor set to get, there's always that next weapon to get, and even if I burn out on one game, there's so many different gameplay styles with the new games because they're trying to innovate and just kind of add new stuff that I can just hop into those games. Like right now, I'm kind of in a Frontier mood, which thankfully the community is voting for the stream today. But even besides that, I'm also in like a Portable Third or 3 Ultimate mood. And I didn't really get to play a lot of underwater combat, and lately I've just been craving a lot of underwater combat because Final Fantasy X kind of made me biased towards underwater combat as a whole. But as is, I was just upset I couldn't fully experience Monster Hunter Online the same way you can now experience Monster Hunter Frontier, because Monster Hunter Frontier, I'm still thankful, you know, obviously that it is available, because I saw the Sky Corridor, and the Sky Corridor is something that I really want to try. Basically like a Monster Hunter dungeon crawling experience. And especially if you can do it with NPCs, even if I don't have like a full party with the community or whatever, or even if I just kind of do it on my own time, I can just go in with a party of NPCs, and I mean, obviously it's going to be a lot more difficult, and they're probably going to faint a lot, which it's fine with me, because there's somebody to do it with. But it's just, these areas kind of reminded me of God of War from like the little snippets I've seen whenever you're going into Pandora's Temple, and I honestly just absolutely adored it. So for that reason, it's like you go into Monster Hunter Online, and I saw some of the monsters and they're very interesting, and then I'm thinking, wow, what did they include in that? I think it was about 6 years it ran, 5 or 6 years. What did they include in that time besides, you know, just the new monsters? What unique mechanics or gameplay additions or something like Gooks, these little ducks from Monster Hunter Frontier? They probably didn't add much more in addition to just the hunts and the new monsters and the new zones. Frontier really was a unique outlier when it came to making a unique game with a lot of features and things of that nature. Also, something I thought was pretty touching is that it turns out a couple of months before the servers went down, they actually made the entire thing free to play for everybody. I don't think they made the entire thing free to play. I don't know what they did with like the monetization or gacha system. I'm guessing they disabled it in the last couple months after they announced it, but still, they made the entire server free to play instead of having to pay like $10 a month to access it, which I think is an amazing thing the developers could have done. Honestly though, I think it's just that love and passion for the community and the series as a whole, and just everybody kind of getting together to take down a common threat. But pretty much that whole community of working together and, you know, helping each other out. It's just why I really wanted to stick with Monster Hunter instead of something like the Souls series and Soulsborne games. Because if I do eventually get done with Monster Hunter, which will probably be like 10 years from now, then most likely what I'm going to do is switch over to the Souls series and Soulsborne games after playing through, you know, Monster Hunter, similar games to Monster Hunter, like Monster Hunter likes, for lack of a better term. But still, I'm going to save any more discussion for next time. Thank you everybody so much for watching. If you liked the video, leave a like on it. Leave a comment down below if you want to add to the discussion or have any tips from me for the rest of the game. And if you want to support the future of the channel, consider contributing on Patreon, or becoming a member on YouTube, or a subscriber on Twitch. I try to stream every single day, or at least as many days out of the week as I can, and I'm definitely pushing to make this a full-time thing the more I interact with this amazing community, because streaming and interacting with the community is kind of where my happy place is, for lack of a better term. It's where I feel like I belong, for lack of a better term. It just brings me a lot of joy seeing everybody show up who shares this love of Monster Hunter, and even people who weren't into Monster Hunter or weren't into the older generation of Monster Hunter before, and hearing that I've convinced them or inspired them to try these games out, and, you know, they're trying them now, and they're actually having fun, it just brings me a lot of joy. But still, I think that's enough yapping once more. Like I said, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and feel free to support if you want to, and support the future of the channel. That way, I don't have to do online gathering quests alone. Bye now.